Alright, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Call Halal Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. Double honors to the apostles of great millstone and salutation to you brothers that's teaching the word in sincerity. Excuse me, Shalaki. This is another episode of History in the Law. We're going into the history. You know, we bring out some laws, some prophecies, you know, different things. But I had a topic that I was thinking about. We spoke at it at the speaking the past Saturday. We was talking about how Amalek, the tribe of Amalek, who we know today, is the so-called Jews, which is nothing but a tribe of Esau, which Amalek was one of the sons of Esau. You know, you read the lineage, and yeah, I'll get into it real quick. This is the book of Genesis, the 36th chapter, Genesis 36 and 12. Genesis 36, I'm going to start at 1. It says, "Now these are the generations of Esau, who was Edom." And when you go down to the 12th verse, it says, "And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. These were the sons of Ada, Esau's wife." So, you know, Eliphaz was one of the sons of Esau, and Eliphaz had Amalek, which Amalek today, when you look up the word Amalek, it means dweller in a valley, and that was one of the sons of Esau in his lineage. Now I'm gonna go into the account that I wanted to read about what Amalek did to the Israelites when we were coming out of the wilderness with Moses. This is Exodus the 17th chapter, and it says, "And all the congregation of the children of Israel sojourned from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water, that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? And the people thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me." There was a great murmuring in the camp of Israel, because they were thirsty, and they murmured against Moses. They was giving Moses hell because they lacked faith. Verse 5, it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thy hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee where upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel." And this is Yahweh, the Most High, showing Israel his power through Moses. They was chiding with Moses because they didn't have any water, and the Most High gave Moses the power to, you know, give the children of Israel water through smiting the rock. And it says, "And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not?" You know, they tempted the Lord. They said, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Wow, that's Israel. But then when you read this story, it goes in how Amalek, you know, what Amalek did. But because of the actions of Israel chiding against Moses, this is what happened. The Most High used Amalek to get at the children of Israel. This is verse 8. It says, "Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, Choose us out men and go out fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of Yahweh in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hand, the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hand was steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in the book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And after this war had taken place, after Amalek was discomfited, the Lord told Moses to write this for a memorial in a book and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And you know, to this day that still stands. Amalek, the so-called Jews today that dwell in the state of Israel, they're going to be utterly put out of remembrance for all of their wickedness that they've done. Starting with the wickedness back during the time of Moses coming up and attacking the children of Israel. Now, I'm going to read it down. Verse 15, and Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi, as is written in the scriptures. It means a different name. I gotta look it up one day, Lord's will. And then it says, for he said, because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So the Lord hath sworn that he will have war with Amalek, the so-called Jews, from generation to generation, man. The Lord have an indignation against these Amalekites, these so-called Jews. Today they claim to be the children of Israel. How could they be the children of Israel if the Lord hates them? And let me go to the book of Deuteronomy 25 and 17. This is the book of Deuteronomy 25 and 17. So these so-called Jews, right, that dwell in the state of Israel, you know, the elite, the stock of the elite international bankers, which they're nothing but Amalekites. The Lord have the indignation for them. 25 and 17, Deuteronomy 25 and 17, it says, remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when ye were come out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way and smote the hindermost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not the Most High. See, when he smote the hindermost part of Israel, the young and the feeble, he didn't fear the Heavenly Father, man. Just like what he's doing today. When he brought us over here, he financed the cargo slave trade. He didn't fear the Most High. When he's trying to implement his new world order, he didn't fear the Heavenly Father. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way when ye were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not Yahweh. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy power hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, thou shalt not forget it. Remember when we read the book of Exodus 17th chapter, he said this is going to be a remembrance. remembrance. And this is a future prophecy right here, man, that I just read when the Lord had given me rest from all thy enemies. Let's go to Numbers 24 and 20. This is the book of Numbers 24, verse 20. It said, and when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. So the Lord have an indignation with Amalek. He have a righteous anger with Amalek, and a great judgment is going to come upon the house of Amalek. And remember, Amalek is today who you would call the so-called Jews. Get another scripture in before I close. This is the book of Psalm 83. Psalm 83, and I'm gonna start at 2. It says, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, which is the so-called white man, and the Ishmaelites, which are the so-called Arabs, and the Moabites, which are the so-called Chinese, and the Hagarenes, Gabel and Ammon, which is the so-called Japanese, and Amalek. Amalek is included. But Amalek is nothing but a son of Esau, man. You know, but he distinguishes himself different than the so-called white man. Because they have the Talmud. They go by the Talmud. You know, these devils, they have their own book. They go by the Talmud, you know, and they look at all the other nations as goyim. They look at the regular so-called white man as a tool to be used. That's why you have the so-called neo-Nazi groups. They always talk about, we hate Jews, we hate niggers, you know, we hate this and we hate that. But they hate their own people, basically. There's a division, a rift between their own people, because they know that the Amalekites, they have power, they pulling strings. You know, it's the Amalekites behind the Southern Poverty Law Center. You know, and it's the Amalekites that talk about you're anti-Semitic, which there's no such thing as being anti-Semitic, because the word Semitic comes from Shem, and you can't say that a so-called Negro is anti-Semitic because we come from Shem. The so-called white man comes from Shem. The Arabs come from Shem. Okay? And you can't say that we're anti-Shemitic. You can't be anti yourself. But that comes from the casting covered over the people. That's why they allowed to get away with that shit. But Yahweh Shemal Shah, look, their remembrance is going to be blotted out. You know? According to the scriptures. I'm going to read it one more time real quick. Going back to the book of Exodus. Exodus 17 real quick. Exodus 17. And because these Amalekites, these Israelites, they're not Israel, they're Edomites. They're Hebrew Edomites from the tribe of Esau. It says, this is Exodus, back in Exodus 17 and 14, and said, and the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. So their remembrance is going to be put out from under heaven in the times to come. Okay? So with that, I'm just going to give all praises to Yahweh Shemal Shah. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and salutations to you brothers that's pushing the word in sincerity and in truth. Until the next episode, Shalom.